Could a government shutdown be a good thing? First of all, let's look at what would be the real impact of a government shutdown. What would keep going is interest payments on debts, Social Security checks, Medicare payments, government spending on defense would continue, air traffic control, prisons, law enforcement, all those essential items would be continue to be funded. Where the impact would be non-essential, which means maybe national parks would be shut down, and maybe if you were in line to get a passport, you would have to wait a little bit longer. But let's go back in history and see what has been the ramifications of government shutdowns, and should we really be concerned? 20-year period, 1976 to 1996, there were 17 shutdowns, which means basically one per year, which accounted for about 110 days where the government did not operate. During that time, of those 110 days, only 6 of those were during an economic recession. What I think is most relevant is to focus in on the one that was most recent, which was in December of 1995. December 1995 through January of 1996, the government was shut down for 21 days. The prior year GDP was 2.3%. The fourth quarter of the year, which was right smack dab in the middle of the federal government shutdown, GDP actually increased 2.9%. And then the following first quarter of 2006, it increased 2.6%. You can almost argue that a government shutdown actually increased economic growth in GDP as opposed to negatively affected it. Furthermore, if you look at the equity markets, what I did here is looked at the S&P 500 beginning on December of 1995. During the 21 days that the government was closed, it was flat, no change in the S&P 500 index. 1 year after the government shutdown began, it was up roughly 17%. 3 years after the government shutdown, it was up roughly 89%. And 5 years after the government shutdown, it was up almost 119%, meaning it more than doubled during those 5 years. So keep this in mind. Fundamentally, when the government reduces spending, that allows more economic growth in the private sector, which increases GDP and economic growth and increases the equity markets. A government shutdown actually may be a good thing for economic growth.